At 9 o'clock that morning, my wife's family tried to log into the company I had built from nothing. The system rejected them. Then their lawyer received an email. All shares have been transferred. He read the next line. His face went completely white. Because I had sold the entire company overnight. And I had sold it to the one competitor my wife's family feared most. But they had no idea why. 3 years earlier, I was sitting at our kitchen table in Charlotte, North Carolina, staring at a stack of unpaid invoices. My wife Emily stood across from me holding 2 cups of coffee. "You're going to make it," she said softly. I looked up. "You really believe that?" She smiled. "I married you because you never quit." That sentence became the reason I kept going. I had founded a logistics software company called NorthBridge Systems in our garage. At first, it was just me, an old laptop, and a borrowed desk. Emily helped with everything. She answered customer emails after work. She brought me dinner when I forgot to eat. When our first major client signed a contract, we celebrated with cheap champagne on the back porch. I still remembered Emily raising her glass. To the man who built something from nothing. I believed she meant it. Then her family came in. Emily's father, Richard, owned several regional businesses. Her older brother, Marcus, was a corporate attorney. Her younger sister, Lauren, handled finance. When NorthBridge started making serious money, Richard offered to help. I trusted him. That was my first mistake. Within 18 months, Emily's family controlled most of the board seats. They called it strategic growth. I called it family. And for a while, I believed those were the same thing. Then Emily started changing. She came home later. She stopped asking about new contracts. And whenever I talked about the company, she seemed irritated. One night I finally asked her, "Are you unhappy with me?" She stared at the kitchen floor. "No." "Then what is it?" She sighed. "My family thinks you've become too controlling." I laughed bitterly. "Controlling?" "Emily, I built this company." She looked at me. "And they think you should step aside." That sentence felt like a knife. But the worst part came 3 days later. I walked into the boardroom and saw 7 people sitting around the table. Emily was there. Her father was there. Marcus was there. And my lawyer was sitting at the far end. Richard folded his hands. "Ethan, we need to discuss your position." I already knew. Still, I asked. "What position?" Marcus slid a folder toward me. "Chief Executive Officer." I opened it. My removal had already been approved. I looked at Emily. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Did you vote for this?" Her lips trembled. "Ethan, did you?" She whispered, "Yes." The room went silent. I closed the folder, then something unexpected happened. I smiled. Marcus frowned. "What's funny?" "Nothing," I said. I stood. "You've made your decision." Richard leaned forward. "You're taking this remarkably well." I looked directly at him. "You haven't seen anything yet." That night, Emily followed me home. She found me sitting in the dark office upstairs. "You're not going to fight them?" she asked. I shook my head. "No." "Why?" I turned toward her. "Because I stopped fighting for people who already decided I was disposable." Her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't know what else to do." "You could have stood beside me." She looked away. "I was afraid of losing my family." I nodded slowly. "And you decided losing me was acceptable." She had no answer. Then my phone buzzed. One message from a private number. "The transfer documents are ready." Midnight. Emily noticed my expression. "Who was that?" I locked my phone. "Nobody." But it wasn't nobody. It was the buyer, NorthBridge's fiercest competitor, a company called Meridian Freight Technologies. For months, I'd quietly negotiated with them. Not because I wanted revenge, because I'd discovered something terrifying. My own board had been moving NorthBridge's intellectual property into another company, secretly controlled by Richard. They weren't just removing me. They were preparing to strip the company I built and leave me with nothing. So I had made one final move. I sold my shares, every single one. And I had done it legally. Quickly. Overnight. At 8:42 the next morning, Emily was already at the office. Her family expected to take complete control. At 8:59, Marcus opened his laptop. At 9 o'clock, he entered the executive credentials stack just denied. He tried again. Nothing. Richard stormed into the room. "What is happening?" Marcus checked the corporate registry. His face changed. What? Marcus whispered. "The ownership records changed." Richard grabbed the laptop. Then his phone rang. It was their attorney. Richard answered. "What did you do?" The attorney's voice was shaking. "I didn't do anything." "Then explain this." There was a pause. "Mr. Hayes, Ethan sold his controlling interest last night." Richard froze. "To whom?" The attorney swallowed. "Meridian." Nobody spoke. Emily had just walked into the room. She heard the name. Her stomach dropped. "Meridian," she whispered. Marcus stared at her. "Your husband sold them the company." Richard slammed his hand against the desk. "That bastard." Then the attorney said something that made the entire room go silent. Actually, sir, it wasn't just the company. Richard's voice lowered. What else? Ethan retained ownership of the original patents and certain founding assets. The sale transferred control of NorthBridge. Emily covered her mouth. She suddenly understood. Ethan hadn't lost his company. He had chosen who would own it. And now her family was working for his fiercest rival. Emily drove straight home. I was sitting on the back porch. She walked toward me slowly. Why didn't you tell me? I looked at her. Would you have believed me? She started crying. I should have. Yes, I said quietly. You should have. She sat beside me. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally she whispered, Did you ever love me? I looked at the woman who had once brought me coffee in a garage office. The hardest part wasn't losing the company. Her eyes lifted. It was realizing the person I trusted most was willing to watch me lose everything. She cried harder. I was wrong. I know. Can we fix this? I looked toward the sunset. I don't know. And that was the first honest answer I'd given her in months. 2 weeks later, Meridian officially took control of NorthBridge. But something unexpected happened. Their new CEO kept me on as chairman of the technology division. Not because I demanded it, because he told me. You built something worth saving. Meanwhile, Richard's hidden company collapsed under investigation. Marcus resigned from the board. Lauren left the family business entirely. And Emily? She didn't ask for forgiveness again. Instead, she started rebuilding trust one day at a time. She went to counseling. She admitted what she'd done. She stopped blaming her family. And slowly, painfully, we began talking again. 6 months later, we sat together at the same kitchen table where our marriage had once begun. Emily placed an old photograph in front of me. It was from our first NorthBridge celebration. Cheap champagne, a tiny garage, 2 exhausted people smiling like they had already won. She touched the photograph. I miss those 2 people. I smiled, sadly. So do I. She took my hand. Maybe we don't have to become them again. I looked at her. Maybe we just become better. For the first time in a long time, I believed her, because sometimes losing everything teaches you what was never truly yours. And sometimes the greatest victory isn't destroying the people who betrayed you. It's refusing to become like them. The company survived. My marriage survived. But neither survived unchanged. And maybe that was the point, because at 9 o'clock that morning, they thought they had voted me out. They didn't realize I had already made my move. And the man they thought they had defeated had simply decided where the final chess piece would land. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below.